Did you guys hear that?
We're ready when you are, yes.
Okay, well, I'll call this meeting to order as of right now then. And I guess we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, is everybody present that's supposed to be here? Or I can't recognize the faces over there.
We have a full committee, but maybe we'll start at this end and we'll just go around the room and everybody introduce themselves, although most of us know each other. That's the way to make sure we have everybody covered.
Jury lab, sportsman.
Tim Farina, I'm a county rancher.
Barbara Little, Deputy Administrator, Plant Industry, Department of Ag.
Clint Wright, Animal Industry Administrator, Department of Ag.
Jerry Conrad, Department of Ag.
Ivan Azam, Department of Health.
Jim Barbie, Department of Ag.
Dennis Belcourt, Deputy Attorney General.
Sean McClaws, Department of Ag.
I'm Mark Jensen, State Director, USDA Wildlife Services.
Will Gardner, Outfitter.
Henry Krinka, Nevada Outfitters and Guides Association.
Daryl Purcell, Farm Bureau again.
Pat Jackson, Nevada Department of Wildlife.
On the phone.
Grant Wallace, Boyd's Brad.
Do we have anyone in Elko?
There's nobody else here. Is Boyd's not on the phone or nothing?
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone. How about Las Vegas?
Got Damon Hernandez, bag.
Thank you, Damon.
All right, well, I guess we'll move on to approving the minutes from the April 9th, 2014 meeting. I don't have those minutes in front of me, though.
It's not April 9th, it's June 3rd, 2014, and September 2nd, 2014, and June 4th, 2015.
I have those three.
Yeah, okay. Do I have the wrong date on here? No, this is the right date, right?
Yeah.
I think those minutes were of the April of 14. Those were approved before, weren't they?
For some reason they.
I don't know where he's.
Oh, gotcha. I think, are you looking at the minutes from the last meeting or the agenda?
I was looking at the agenda.
Because it should be number 4, approved meeting minutes, June 3rd, September 2nd, and June 4th. June 3rd of 2014, September 2nd of 2014, and June 4th of 2015.
Correct. Those are the three I have, but on the agenda it said of April, so I was just going down the agenda.
I think you're looking, they look very similar, but I think you're looking at the minutes from the June 4th
Yeah.
meeting.
June 3rd, 4th.
Okay, well, I think the only minutes we have to start with is the September 2nd of 2014. Does anybody have any questions on those minutes? Everybody still connected?
You looking for a motion, Pete?
Yes.
That was my hint, I can't make one.
I make a motion to approve. Do you want to do them all at once, or?
Yes.
June 3rd, 2014, September 2nd, 2014, and June 4th, 2015.
I'll second that.
You have a second.
Okay. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. The minutes have been read for those 3 meetings. Okay, now, I think I need to back up. Did we have any public comments before we started the minutes?
Yeah, you have one comment, public comment down here, or over here, wherever we are.
Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Jerry Land, Sportsman, and I got 2 copies of a presentation here, and I'll make it short here, but I want to make a presentation of why this park committee should review Endow's Predator plan ASAP, because the law was passed and it says that in adopting any program for the management of predatory wildlife shall first consider the recommendation of the commission and the state park committee. And the legislative legal people said that this should be reviewed because the law is the law right now. And if, an example like he gave us, if the speed limit in Nevada was 50 miles an hour and the law was passed at 70, then it doesn't make any difference. Its law is effective on the date that it becomes effective. And I've got 2 copies of this, but I gave a copy of the final Predator plan of Endow's, and the money they brought in, $570,000, and there's a flaw in the Predator plan. And if you look at the final numbers of the Predator plan, they're only spending $377,000 lethal, and the law said they're supposed to send 80%. That's 66%, because $95,000 is a combo in this plan, and I'll give the director a copy of it. And there are 2 projects, 2102 and 22074, and that's $95,000. They're calling them a limited lethal, but that's not what the law says. It says lethal, and they're calling them lethal, and they're mixed study and they're mixed lethal, but they're calling them lethal to get to their 80%, and so they're only spending $377,000. And if you take last year's revenue, Predator fees, $570,368 times 80% is $456,000 NDOW needs to be spent on lethal projects. And the plan does not show that. I'll give you a copy of this. And I also gave you a copy of the 2 projects that they're mixed, lethal and mixed study. And the one is ravens, and they're going to monitor raven abundance, and they're going to kill ravens. But part of it is study, and they need to break out the lethal part from the non-lethal part. And the next one they have is a lion project, and both these combined are $95,000. And one is lion removal and then diet analysis. Diet analysis is a study to see what lions eat, and that's not anything to do with lethal. So that is not a valid project to put under the lethal category. And then I gave another example of how it works, the 80% and for APHIS to do the raven study. And then also NDOW's final plan shows they're going to spend $556,000 totally, yet their revenue last year was $570,368. And where's the $14,368 balance? I don't know, but that's something this committee could look into. And then I also gave you the bill history, AB 78, and it says the effective date when the governor signed it is May 27th, 2015. And so that's when you guys have the authority to review this plan. And, you know, I don't care if the thing was approved in last February, last July, you still have the legal responsibility according to the legislative legal people to review it and make recommendations, because there is some problems with it. And I'll hand this, 2 copies of this to the director here.
Okay. Put it on the record or maintain it with the record. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there any other public comment?
None here.
I guess that'll move us to the Raven permit increase. I'll go to you, Jim.
So for the record, Jim Barbie, Director, Department of Ag. I'm a little bit prepared because Mark helped me be a little bit prepared, but I didn't honestly think Mark was going to be able to attend this meeting, so I thought we'd wind up deferring it till down the road. But Mark Jensen probably knows, well, not probably knows as much as anybody on how the federal permits work and where it stands today. Department of Ag has 1,500, NDOW has 2,500, I believe. That's correct. For Raven permit take, and then Mark was showing me that they also have another permit that does other types of birds outside of Raven. And I know that, is it generally construed 5% of the total population, which is where those initial permit numbers came from?
For the record, Mark Jensen, that's correct, Jim. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, that's under the Department of Interior, are the ones that issue the permits for the federal government. So again, as part of that process, we, Department of Ag, go to, and we have for many, many years, go to the Fish and Wildlife Service and get a permit to remove ravens to protect livestock. We've done that for many years. Also, as part of the sage grouse protection efforts, the Nevada Department of Wildlife also approaches the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they get a permit for 2,500 ravens to protect sage grouse. Again, we are the people that implement that permit as well to remove the ravens, but again, because it is for protection of sage grouse fall under the legal authority of Nevada Department of Wildlife, because it is a game bird. That's why the Department of Wildlife maintains that permit, even though we do the work. So again, if anybody has any questions about the permit or the permit process, again, the Fish and Wildlife Service is using approximately 5% of the raven population as kind of their limit, and again, that's kind of where they're stuck, I guess, is for lack of a better word. So,
well, one of the questions, well, a couple of questions that I would have. First, what responsibility does Fish and Wildlife Service have in dealing with the ravens, since they're a protected bird under their authority, as it impacts other species in a negative manner? And then secondly, I thought they had done last year at some point a population study to get current numbers, and those numbers were closer to 200,000 than they were 100,000, in which case couldn't we take upwards of 10,000 birds totally, and what process would we have to go through to try to achieve that? So two-part.
Well, I'll answer the first question first, or the last question first. Again, there has been an analysis done by the Partners in Flight, and they're just a bird organization that looks at this kind of stuff. And the last analysis that was done by Partners in Flight, looking at a variety of factors, did show that the estimated population of ravens in Nevada now is estimated at 190,000 ravens. And that's up from the 100 to 110,000 ravens back in 2011. So Partners in Flight has put out this number. However, no federal entity, whether it be us, the Fish and Wildlife Service, anybody, no federal entity has done any formal NEPA analysis to show and to say formally in the NEPA process that the raven numbers have increased. So unless we do it or the Fish and Wildlife Service does it, technically in NEPA that number does not exist yet, even though it's out there. But somebody would have to do the NEPA and the NEPA analysis formally to show the 190,000 number. We have not done that.
And what would be the process for making that happen?
Well, for us, we could update our NEPA analysis for our Predator EA, but our EA is currently under lawsuit, so we've been advised not to update our environmental assessment until the lawsuit has been decided one way or another. So there it is. And the Fish and Wildlife Service is going to say, well, I can't speak for them. I shouldn't speak for them, but normally they don't have the staff to do that kind of analysis.
Back to the initial question, where this bird is under their protection and state or some entity could show that it's doing damage to another species.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Jim, but again, the Fish and Wildlife Service normally, how can I say this? Normally does not take responsibility for that kind of thing. They really never have, and you know, even for the wolf, even though the wolf was their animal until it was delisted, they didn't help with any of the damage.
In your experience with the background of what you know, would it be, I mean, the committee could choose to be on record, this is an action item, requesting an increase in the permit number, and that may indeed just be a exercise in paperwork. But is that something that would help to start to build a case, to start to look at this as an issue and try to get something done to get an accurate count on the bird? Or what would your recommendation be, just from your not in your current position, but in your background?
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad idea for this committee to formally recommend to the Department of Wildlife that they request an increase in raven take for the protection of sage grouse.
Could the Department of Ag then do one as well? I mean, two different permits.
Yeah, you could make that.
Think you're getting a call, Pete?
What's that?
Sure, we could make that request, but again, the permit is issued to the Nevada Department of Wildlife. But I mean, you could write the letters however the committee would choose to do it. You could write the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. You could recommend to NDOW that they make the request. Whatever the committee.
But the committee can make a recommendation as well on the livestock permit as well, correct?
And granted, you know, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but again, the 1,500 number for protecting livestock, usually we can get through the year and solve the problems that have come to us to protect livestock, and we're somewhere around that 1,500 number, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. I hesitate to use our permit to pseudo start protecting sage grouse, even though we do have livestock and sage grouse sometimes in the same areas. But again, that's really not how I would recommend looking at this, even though sometimes they're in the same areas. But again, when we are protecting sage grouse, we go to the sage grouse leks. We know that those hens nest usually within 3 miles of the lek, so we are moving ravens in and around the lek. It doesn't do any good to go 10 miles down the road and start removing ravens because those probably are not the ones that are going to affect those nesting birds. So again, that's the conversation that has got to go on at some point in time in Nevada is if sage grouse are important and we want to try to turn this around, what is it going to take to reduce the raven densities around the sage grouse leks that we identify, or the department identifies as important to Nevada. That's the conversation that is eventually going to have to go on. And how many ravens it would take to remove if we identified 100 leks or 150 leks or 200 leks, I really don't know what that number would be. It could be 10,000 ravens. It could be 15,000 ravens. I don't know. It's going to be more than what it is now. I can guarantee you that.
Okay, and in doubt, do you want to go on the record or comment or?
I've contacted Jennifer Brown with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and engineering permitting office, and they certainly didn't make it seem like they were going to be willing to raise the permit.
So to the committee members, that's the 411 on Raven permit increase. It is an action item. There's limited action that I think you could take, but you could take some action if you chose to. Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to see this committee make a recommendation, like Mark said, to request through the proper channels that they get their NEPA process done, and to get this figured out, and also just a general increase if somebody wants to figure out how to put that into a motion. Just the request to have more ravens taken.
Under all permits or under endow permit or?
Well, in all permits, and a recommendation from this committee that they get their NEPA process moving so they know what they have on paper to take care of this problem, because we just keep talking about it. It's the same permit and the same numbers and the same, I mean, I know it's a shot in the dark, but at least it comes from this committee that they recommend either get your NEPA process done or increase the numbers or to do something.
Jim, if I could, I don't know if we're going back to discussion, but if I could, there is another process that the Fish and Wildlife Service could undertake if they chose to do so, and that's called a depredation order. And they've done it for other birds, for example, the cormorant back east. The cormorant, double-crested cormorant, the populations were growing exponential. They're a fish-eating bird, and they were damaging many of the fisheries back east. And it was decided the Fish and Wildlife Service, along with APHIS, they got together and did the NEPA analysis, and it wasn't EIS, so it was an extensive analysis of the bird. It takes over a year to do it. It's expensive. But again, based on finalizing that document, they're able to move the cormorant into what's called a depredation order, which basically removes it from the protection of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which basically gives federal agencies more flexibility with managing that bird. And again, that's something that the Fish and Wildlife Service may end up having to look at with the raven, because again, this is not just a Nevada problem. This is a west-wide problem. Again, ravens continue to grow. The numbers are growing exponentially. Sage grouse, again, a problem in 11 western states. It's something that they should be looking at, but again, it's going to take a political push to make that happen.
I have a question.
Wait a minute, Boyd.
Hang on just a second.
Yes, sir. For the record, this is Eisen Azam. Do we know what is the rate of increase of the raven? Like how, what is the percentage of increase every year?
Every year, I don't have a good number from that, but again, our analysis showed from 2011, we estimated it between 100,000 and 110,000. Now, in 2015, the numbers went to 190,000. So that's roughly, not quite 100% increase over 4 years. So you're probably looking at a 10 to 20% increase annually.
So what about having incremental increase in the permit? Because if there's no way to find a magic number, so that incrementally every year we will increase it by this amount and reassess what's happening. Are we recovering the losses or not?
Absolutely, that would be an effective strategy if the Fish and Wildlife Service would adopt that strategy.
But they're not willing to take the first analysis.
They won't budge.
The 197 number.
They won't budge off of the first analysis, let alone the latest analysis.
Thank you.
Boyd, go ahead. Boyd?
Okay,
Yeah.
there's several ironies here. First of all, we're spending literally millions of dollars on the Safe Grass Recovery Plan and just studying everything that can possibly be studied. There's already a lot of literature out there that says the ravens have a major impact on nesting and nesting. I disagree a little bit with Mark. He said that, that we're going to do it within so many miles of a lake. I think there's data showing that those hens fly quite a ways from the lake, to develop her nest. And so, that in itself, that 3 mile radius around the lake, baiting everything on the lake is not necessarily probably the accurate way to do it. But it's an irony that we spend all this money and continue to spend on the safe draft itself. And it's just so convenient that we don't have a clue. Knowing that with a raven and leadership approved it, is having an effect on safe draft population. It's just amazing that they can't come up with anybody to do a current analysis on the raven. And I think those arguments should be put in the form of our request to the Fish and Wildlife Service. That they haven't spent the money on the raven, knowing full well it has a major impact on the bird. But some of the other uses out there, whether it be grazing, mining, solar, or whatever, they've measured and analyzed and spent money on everything that can possibly do with those other uses out there, those other so-called threats. So I think, and then my last point was that for a year or so now, I've heard numbers that way in excess of 190,000. It seems like it's been bandied around, and I can't say where these figures came from. Even in county commission meetings, and when Ted Cook was in the room at Elko County, they were talking about 600,000 statewide. So I think that in itself shows that there's a dire need for some sort of analysis on what this major predator on sage grouse, what the numbers truly are.
Okay, Boyd, I could not understand very good what you said. I only got a few words of that, but.
Just an update, we still don't have a motion on the floor. And I'm done with my presentation.
Has anybody made a motion?
No, sir.
How do we, I'm not sure how to word it.
So I would suggest that you can make a motion reflecting the comments that we've had in the last couple of speakers. I'll try to put that out, and then you guys can say, yeah, we like that one.
Right.
I think we ought to do something for the NEPA, get them to get that going, but also request more permits. So I guess I'd like to make a motion to that effect. I just don't know the best way to word it.
Tell me if this gets close. Darrell is moving that we would increase the Raven permits, request an increase in the Raven permits to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as an updated NEPA analysis on the population, and inquire about the possibility of including the raven in depredation work, and allow the agency staff to draft that into a letter for signature by the chairman.
So moved.
Boyd seconds.
Okay, who made the motion?
Darrell.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. No, I'm not opposed. That was a yay.
Yeah. Okay, you got no opposition.
Okay. There was, somebody opposed it, correct?
No,
So it passed unanimous?
correct.
Okay, motion carried.
So we'll work on that and have the draft letter that we'll share with the chairman, and once it's done and shipped, then we'll share that with the, email it out to the entire.
I can help.
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah, I really have a hard time understanding Boyd. It sounds like it's talking to a pipe from here, and really the only two I hear fairly clearly is Jim and Mark Jensen. So you guys, I apologize for that. I wished I was in Reno today, but I photo finished to be here at 3 o'clock, let alone Reno, so.
All good.
All right. Well, the next item then we'll move on to is number 6 on the proposed action for squirrel abatement in Paradise Valley and elsewhere, and possible public and private land actions. Tim DeFarina, Board Ag member, I think he has a presentation he wants to make.
Tim DeFarina, I have the same thing that I talked to you guys about earlier. I did want to talk to you just a little bit here and let you know, or see what you got going, but basically we just need some help on the squirrels. We need to talk to somebody and get some help up there with them. I think I've turned everything in. It sounds like what we're interested in is trying to get the strychnine is working. We'd like to get some possibly a little earlier and coordinate with you so we can get it, set up.
That'd be fantastic. I'm sorry, Robert Little for the record, Administrator for Plant Industry. I'm kind of taken over the strychnine program since Ed Foster has left, and I'm kind of working out of the shadows there. I didn't have a full contact list when he left and everything else. So since he's left, last year and this year we've been producing strychnine since. We've always had it available until we'll mix the batch, and then once we run out of the raw product, then we can turn around and get a PO together to get more raw product to mix another batch. But yeah, I would love to coordinate with the group or with all of our Northern Nevada ranchers really that are looking to get strychnine. If I have an idea of what people are looking for, it makes it a lot easier for me to get them the raw product, how much we need ahead of time, and then mix it. As it was last year and going on to the beginning of this year, we were getting as much as we can, and as soon as we got it, we were just selling it right out, and we were rationing it out just so everybody had a chance to get a little bit here and there. It hasn't been necessarily the case this year. People are just kind of, because it's been an issue in the past, they're stockpiling it. So people are asking, well, can I get 15, 20, 30, 40 jugs of it? And so if we could get a system together where people are saying, yeah, this upcoming spring or whatever else, I would like to get 15 jugs, and we had a standing order, that'd be a lot easier. So I would really appreciate that. That'd be really great.
I think last year, or this year, last year, but kind of jumped on everybody. They didn't realize what the issue really was, and boy, it caught everybody. So I know that everybody was behind this year to get started.
I do have it if you're still looking for it. I do have it made now and can make more if people are still interested. We do have it right now.
Okay. So, and then excuse me. Also the zinc phosphide, they were trying to work on something to get, I talked a little bit to these guys about it earlier, about getting a mix to use that.
So yeah, what he's talking about here, and I've got a label for it, it's zinc phosphide concentrate. And so you have to get a 24C special use or a special local needs permit for that for Nevada. Not a big deal, we can get that. They have gotten one in Oregon and also in California, and they're using it right now. And essentially, it's it would be a liquid, kind of like we do with strychnine, where you would mix it onto a hay and alfalfa or something else, and you would pre-bait with cabbage. Basically the same thing you're doing with strychnine now. So if this is something that our ranchers and farmers and producers are interested in doing for Nevada, which it kind of sounds like we are, we can go through the process of getting a 24C special local need permit to do it. And all that really requires is we need to get some letters, basically from our farmers, basically stating this is something we're looking to do. And it would talk about the impacts that you're having with squirrels. What your losses are basically due to the squirrel population, the problems that we're having. what you've tried in the past, why it is or is not working, and why you feel this would be a better alternative. One of the things I am aware of with this, as opposed to strychnine, is this doesn't have the secondary kill that strychnine does, and so it's kind of favorable. In Oregon, they're talking they've got really good results with it, with their kills and everything else, and it's the same thing. It's put it in a burrow or a bait box type of thing as well. If that's something you're interested in, I can get together with you guys at another point. We can start drafting a letter to put towards the EPA to get this special permit. And I just need some stuff from you, and then the Department of Agriculture, you can hand it off to us, and then we move forward to get that permit for you.
Yeah, the people I've talked to, if they're really interested in that, and the way I kind of understood it, and I'm just getting this secondhand, but you can also, you don't have to put this in a burrow, is that right?
So what I've read off, and I'm not super familiar with it just because it hasn't been registered here in Nevada, but what I was able to pull off the internet, both from California and Oregon, they are stating that you have to put it in a burrow. Yeah. I mean, you can pre-bait outside the burrow with, untreated cabbage or something like that, but when you go to bait, you have to actually get it in the burrow.
Okay.
But I think we also need some help on finding something that they're willing to take. There's a lot, what I'm seeing is they're not eating what we're feeding them. They like refuse to eat it.
And I know some of that's timing and things like that. I mean, you guys are, I just kind of make the stuff. I'm not out there on day-to-day process watching them eat it and everything else. And, I've been talking to some people up in Denio that have been buying the strychnine, and others that are saying, they're finding better success in between cuttings, baiting out there, because there's just not as much for them to eat in between cuttings, or, getting out when, early in the spring. And some of them are actually doing fall treatments too, when there's just nothing else out there available, trying to knock them down. But again, you guys are doing it more than I am, and I'm more than willing to help you out with that. I just, I'm not really on the ground doing it. I kind of make it, and I can help you get the permits to get the other products if that's something you're interested in.
How do you want to go about that? Do I need to get these people together and get letters? Do you need to can you get me something that I address?
Yeah, I can get everybody's contact information. I'll send you a letter, or I'll send, if you want me to send it to the group, or however you want me to do it. I know there's a lot of, Nevada ranchers that would probably be interested in it too, that aren't represented today, that we can maybe try to get some information. Now, we don't need, we don't need 100 people writing letters. Just a couple of letters basically stating this is the product that we're interested in. We know it's available in California and Oregon. It seems to be having good results, and the fact that, it doesn't have the secondary kill would be a better option in some cases. And so, the EPA has already approved it in other states, so it shouldn't really be an issue to try to get it. But what I'll do is I can send you guys, I can send the group an email, and then you guys can basically stating what we need from the ranchers and the farmers, and then you guys can send it off to whoever you think you'd want to write a couple of letters into us, and then we'll take it from there, and keep you guys in the loop through the whole process.
Thank you, Robert. Anybody else got any questions for Robert?
I had a question, Mark Jensen, for the record. So the concentrate, the basic label for the concentrate is not registered in Nevada?
No, it is not. And so, and I've been talking with Chuck, as you know, Chuck Moses, our EPA Environmental Sanitary Department, and he went through the whole process and looked it up, and he said, yeah, this is not registered in Nevada. It is in Oregon and California, so we just need to get it registered here. And it's not really registered in there too, but they did the exemption, the 24C. So it's not really registered there, but they did the exemption to get it registered.
So when you get a promotion at the Department of Agriculture, that means you get to work with dangerous and fearful chemicals. It's a hell of a thing that we have a retention problem in staff. So I don't think we need an action out of that. We've heard you, understood, and Robert will reach out and try to get a couple of letters, and we'll get it on label and see what we can do to help you get it, the instructions for using it out in the field. With that, that's all we have on that, Pete.
Okay, sounds good. And we'll move on to item number 7, and that will be to review and approval of the new committee member draft application content and an application process. Director Barbie, would you like to fill us in on that?
Sure. So we took the information that we had, let me make sure, and that's in the back, last page of your packet. And these are the questions that we had decided on, so we needed to confirm that those are still the questions that you are good with. I'll read through those real quick, and then I'll talk about the background check portion of this, and then what we would like to do in terms of process of putting out the application, and then we can also, some of that will drive timeline, and we can talk about timeline, and you guys can set those dates, and we'll see what we can do to get folks into those positions. So the first question, and understand that there'll be a preliminary, name, address, all the basic describe your experience as a licensed guide and or sportsman. Describe your wildlife and or livestock background. It's number 2. Number 3, describe your philosophy regarding lethal predator control. Please relate it to both wildlife and livestock. Number 4, describe your understanding of the interaction between predators and wildlife and livestock. Number 5, how active are you in your county advisory board to manage wildlife? And number 6, do you attend or participate in the Wildlife Commission meetings? And number 7, have you participated in or contracted to have predator control or worked with Wildlife Services, Nevada Department of Wildlife, or the Nevada Department of Agriculture previously? Do y'all want those changed, or do you have others you would want us to add?
Is there a page limit on the description?
There definitely is not a page limit, because one of the, and maybe I'll talk about the process and that'll kind of explain it. We have a ginormous document that they'll have to download.
I think you meant on the responses.
Right. No. Well, yeah, that's a good question.
We'll go on right 50 pages. I'm gonna let it no more than.
We're government, we love that, right?
Like no more than half page or 2 paragraphs.
Right, and we could put a word count assignment, and maybe this will help explain what we were thinking is, we were gonna have one of our IT folks basically create this as an online form where they can enter into the box all their information, they can enter into the box their answers to the questions. So normally, I wanna say there's, somewhere around 150, 250 word limit on those responses. We want them pretty straightforward and direct. And so that would kind of limit the length of that. But we would also then have our background check. This would be for the sportsman, because if I understand correctly from our last meeting, the licensed guide already has a background check done through NDOW on it, correct? And so we would probably have a box for a guide number, and then we can just verify with NDOW. For the sportsman, they would have to download the full packet and fill that out, and that takes somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks to process through the system. We would then have where they could upload like a resume, request to be on the committee type letter, if that's what you guys want. So basically, they could put in their information, download the document that they needed, fill out that document, and then upload that document, upload the resume, and upload the letter that will determine you guys want in terms of the application process. And then basically, if we said we'll have this live in 3 weeks from now, then we would basically want to not have the meeting to review those applications until, and we say we'll put it out there for 2 weeks for folks to fill out and submit. And we wouldn't want to have the meeting to review the applications until probably 5 or 6 weeks after that due date for the application. And so basically, your determination as a committee on, when you want to do and what you want to do will drive what that timeline is going to be for getting someone or some folks appointed. So that would be just the application process. And then the next conversation needs to be about the review process. So what's the pleasure of the group? First, I would ask, are the questions what you're looking for?
Does anybody have a question? Then I do, Jim.
Okay.
How soon could we get the applications out? And what timeline do you think that we'd have them out for the people to submit an application?
I would think, hold on, look at my calendar. I would think we should probably be able to have the application posted and ready for entry by the end of the week of the 17th, so that basically that weekend or the morning, starting the 20th, whatever, of July, applicants could start filling out the online application, doing the paperwork if they need to, and then attaching or uploading that into the site.
And we promote.
And we would promote, we'd do a press release through the agency, we would send it out to partner agencies, to partner associations. Exactly, and we've had some folks contact us that we would ship it out to as well. We'd send it out through Endow, and hopefully Endow would post it on their site, and which would be the big hit for sportsmen and for guides, but then to the guide associations and to, of course, on our website. We'd send it through the ag community, obviously, because that's the easy button that we have.
So part of the announcement would be what they can accomplish, but for themselves and the community by joining this group.
Correct. We'll give the background of how the positions were created during the legislative session and the diversification of the park committee and what those stated purposes in NRS are for the committee members that have been added to review, although they're part of everything, but that specifically was added, and that's why it was diversified. So unless...
Anybody else have any questions for Jim?
Does that timeline about 3 weeks from now work? And I'm looking to Jerry to see if she's gonna throw something at me. I think it's a pretty simple application, so I think we can get Tony to.
It is, so I guess my question is, I think that works, depending on how long they need to review. Are we going to have the September meeting in Elko?
The September meeting is in Elko, I believe, yes. So,
Are we?
well, if we're looking at, let's go back to the calendar. If we're looking at, let's say around July 20th, folks can start inputting, and we left it out there for 2 weeks. I think we have folks that are motivated to want to apply for the positions. So if we left it on for 2 weeks and closed it on July 31st, then what date is our meeting in Elko?
Second.
This board meeting is the second.
We could attempt, and I say attempt because at that point we have 4-week turnaround. We could hopefully attempt to get if we submitted the applications for the sportsmen that we receive as we receive them into the background check, to try to have those completed by the time of the second. Understand that part of that work is outside, obviously, of the agency, because they do a FBI background check and all that kind of stuff, and so it's waiting on them to get back to us. But we can make the attempt to have that complete, and then instead of so if we meet on if Board of Ag meets the second, we could meet the morning after the Board of Ag meeting in Elko on the morning of the 3rd, which will give us one more day, which we need. And of course, we'll video conference and conference call to the rest of the state as well. But we can then, on the 3rd, review those applications as a committee and take action to make recommendations to the chairman of the committee for selection.
Right. Would we be, would everybody have to have a background check that applied first, or why would you put everybody through a background check? Why not select your person upon that he passes a background check, so everybody didn't have to go through the background check? Would that not be more feasible?
Until you select somebody that has a background issue that you go, oh crap, now we gotta publicly reverse our decision because we selected them, didn't realize they had this infraction of whatever it may be. I mean, it makes a mistake, or it makes a, I'll leave it, I'll let our DAG make comments. What would you recommend?
You know, it's, I suppose what you could have a question in your questionnaire about that, and maybe that would, people will not want to serve on the committee when they realize that's going to, the background's going to be checked maybe if they've got an issue. And then
that'll be on the intro of it.
And then have that, as, when you narrow down the list, perhaps do a check on everybody.
Because the guide won't be a problem, because the guide has to be a licensed guide, and to be a licensed guide in the state, you have to pass a background check when you put in your application with NDOW. So the guide part isn't going to be a problem. It's going to, the only one that's iffy is the sportsman, and that's the only one that we would do it, we're not going to duplicate work that NDOW's already done. So it's kind of y'all's pleasure.
But
You
say the
have a
committee.
question down here, Pete. Mr. Krinka.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm done about outfitters for the record. Also, I'd just like to, and does charge $50 for that background check also.
See, they're getting such a great deal with Department of Ag.
Yeah.
We'll let you apply for free.
That's all I have.
I didn't hear Henry's comment.
He said that he wanted to make note that the NDOW, when the guides go through the process at NDOW, that does have a $50 fee. I wouldn't propose that we put any kind of background fee on it this year. This will be a yearly application because of the way I read the statutes, it's a one-year term. And so we'll address this next time around. Right now, I just want to get the committee full so that we can start to do the work that we're supposed to do per the legislators. So you can thank livestock identification, they'll be covering that cost. You have another question down here, Pete?
Walt Gardner for the record. Is there any way that you could appoint a committee to narrow it down to say 3 or 5 members to where you didn't have to background every applicant?
And that was going to, thank you. That was going to be the question that I also proposed to you guys. We as staff could try to review the applications that we get and the recommendations that we get and bring top 3, top 5, whatever you determined that you wanted to review as a committee. If that would help, expedite.
Procedurally, Dennis Belcourt, for the record, if you set up a subcommittee, then you may have to follow the open meeting law and go through the rigmarole of that. So it's often better to just delegate it to staff, and staff can deal with it from a procedural standpoint.
And if it works out good, I'll take the claim for it. If it works out bad, we'll blame Flint.
Yeah. That's how it always goes.
That's what I do.
But Jim, what I was thinking is, could we not have our main pick and like 2 alternates in case there was something wrong with our main pick, so we didn't have to go back completely? I mean.
Well, yeah, you could do that, and then the chair has the authority to do the selection by law anyway. So basically, the committee could make recommendation based on passage of a background check, and then basically once those background checks were completed, then you could make the appointment. So yeah, that would work out, and that kind of makes sense with the way the law's written.
Right, because it just seems like that we as a committee could pick our person, and pending the background check, and say the background check went through, we were perfectly fine. If that did not, we could go to our alternate one, and hopefully we wouldn't pick 3 of them that had a bad background check.
I wouldn't hex us like that by saying that. We might surprise ourselves. You have Jerry down here would like to speak.
Jerry Lynn, for the
Go ahead.
Jerry Lynn, for the record, I think that if you did have a subcommittee, with the open meeting law, you'd have to have it at a public meeting. And so you'd be doing it twice. But the law says that they must have issued a hunting license in 3 to 5 years, and it's easy to check that.
Right.
And you have the ability to check somebody if they've had a violation. It'd be easy to check, and the reason they charge the guides that, because the guides are a business and they make money off of it. This position is not a money making, it's a volunteer position, and so, and it would save you some embarrassment. I mean, when the governor picks people, he makes sure that they qualified for the position, so he's not embarrassed. And I'd like to see the Board of
Well,
Agriculture.
they try to, but remember, I was along those lines at one point too, and Tim might argue the point for you.
And it'd be, it seems like it'd be a simple process just to run everybody through it, to check if they have any violations, before you even consider it, and you could throw them out because it wouldn't be qualified.
And that's specifically what we're talking about and what we're trying to do, but based on the time that it takes from our enforcement officer to run the process, he's telling us between 4 and 6 weeks. So we're trying to shave it off, and for somebody that still retain their teaching credential and has to go through that process every 6 years, I can tell you that's not a made-up amount of time. That's the time it takes to get once you submit the names and the information, get the reports back. So, but I think that we can do that without holding up the process if we follow basically what Pete is suggesting. We could easily make the selections and make the recommendation and rank them 1, 2, 3, because we're only talking the sportsman one, really.
And is staff gonna whittle it down?
Oh, well, and that's the thing, you guys need to make some decisions. Does this timeline fit your need? Do the questions look appropriate? Do you want staff to whittle down to where we bring, 5, 3, whatever to the meeting for review? And then, under the sportsman situation, do you want to follow the recommendation by Pete to basically do the top 3, top 2, whatever, and we'll do the background check after the meeting, after the recommendation, and then does the chairman do we have to be in a meeting for him to make the official? Well, he could select them and they'd be at the next meeting in his appointment.
Yes, September.
Right then.
Well, it's the chair's selection, so it's totally up to them.
Okay. Would that work? And if so, could we have a motion saying we would recommend staff do that? But we still need to know how many you want us to bring forward if you want us to do the preliminary review.
Are you guys still there? I'm losing you now, it seems like.
Boyd, you guys on the phone?
I'm here.
All right.
Daryl, you guys tell us what you want to do.
Can you guys still hear me?
Walk across the floor, whatever you're looking for here. We can hear you.
I don't know what the interest is gonna be in getting on the board, but, I would think, 2 for each position are you planning to bring forward to be considered. Unless there are a whole bunch of it. If you did a whole lot more than that, then that's something else, but I would think 2 would be adequate to bring to the chairman to consider.
If we get 5, we'll bring 2. If we get 10, we'll bring 4 or something like that.
I think that'd be appropriate.
Say bring the top 25%.
Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think if you had 10, I think I'd like to see all 10 of them myself to be reviewed by the committee.
I will say, anytime there's always a black helicopter flying after decisions are made, and if you have folks that aren't brought to it and they applied, you know, I don't know, it's hard to say. Of course, that said, I don't think we want to try to go through 25 people for each one of those positions on a meeting the day after the Board of Ag. I mean, but that's up to you guys to try to give me.
Can they review them before they get to the meeting? Individually? Could the committee members review them individually before they come to the meeting?
If not conducted, yeah, they could, individually, they could do so.
Okay. So we could do everybody, but basically we send you the applications as soon as we have them, which will be 4 weeks before the meeting. You know, we can share those with you. We just wouldn't have done, but we're not going to do a background check until after anyway, so. Right. Or that's what we're leaning towards, I think.
Right, yeah, I agree with something like that. I would like to see all the people that applied.
Pete, this is real personal for the record. Do you want to see them even if they're a PETA person that doesn't want, I mean, there could be some real radical ones that you could just throw right out.
Well, but I think that's maybe a good reason to have them on the record.
True.
Because then they can't say they weren't taken into consideration.
True.
Well, yeah, I think personally, whoever applies, we as the committee should at least be able to know in case somebody like jumped you on the street and asked why you weren't considered, and per se, I didn't even know about it.
For Pete, Mr. Capuro's in the room now and wanted to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
The only problem with throwing it open like that, I've, of course, hired a lot of people over the years, and when you throw it open like that, you're going to have contingencies that will apply for it. There ought to be some way to eliminate those that absolutely have no interest, except they want to be, recognized in the paper or something like that. But you throw it open like that, and it brings more problems than it solves.
So you members know who you are. You guys tell me what you want to do. Grant, Boyd, Darrell. We're leaning on Darrell, the new guy, heavy for promotions.
Well, after hearing the discussion just now with the board, I'd say you better just show them all to either all of us on the board or to at least to the chairman.
Okay, so you would suggest that we would send them out to everybody, and then during the meeting we could have some kind of top 5 sort and figure out who makes the top list of it, and then get rid of the rest and not even have to consider them in the meeting. Just sort them that way. You could do a number rank. Everybody that rank them 1 through 10, let's say, and the lowest top 5 numbers are the ones you actually review and consider. So would that work?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to go with your recommendation is, and then somebody can say they would agree to move this, that your recommendation is that we have the application online and do press on by July 20th, that the application would be due 2 weeks later, the end of the month, which I believe is July 31st, that those applications, once submitted, we would share with the committee members for a park committee meeting on the morning of September 3rd in Elko, in which case you'll be able to do a number sort and get down to your top 5 for final review and selection. And the sportsmen selected, we would review or submit their paperwork for the background check after their selection. And you would give us the committee will make a top recommendation of 2 each to the chairman of the committee for final selection.
Mr. Barrett, so moved.
Darrell's your second.
Did we get a second?
Yes, sir, Darrell.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not hearing any, motion carried. Okay, Mark, do you have anything that you want to add with us that you didn't add before?
Mr. Chairman, again, Mark Jensen for the record. I really don't have anything to add other than what was prepared for the permits. Again, if anybody wants to hear any specifics as far as the reports from Wildlife Services program in the future, please let us know and we can put it on the agenda, but I don't have anything to add for today.
Okay. I guess that'll move us on to public comment. Does anybody have any public comment with what we discussed today?
None here in Reno.
This board, I have one more comment. And if, last week about this time, there was a editorial written by Sam Sanders in the Local Free Press. I don't know if anybody's already seen it, but it would probably be worth going to Free Press and pulling that editorial up. There's quite a bit of misinformation about this park committee. And unfortunately, I think Sam didn't serve himself well by writing what he did. You might want to go to that website and pull up that editorial.
Could you repeat that for me, Jim? Because I cannot understand Boyd at all.
What was his name, Boyd? I can't remember the name. Sam Shepard.
Sam Sanders.
It's Sam Sanders. He's a private trapper from this area up here.
Sam Sanders, Pete, did an editorial, which you probably saw in the Elko Daily Free Press about a week ago.
Yes, I saw that in the Elko Daily Free Press, and I know Sam Sanders well, too. I don't know what we're supposed to do about that, but...
Well, and Boyd was just saying, in preparation for, doing the things and working on the things that we are, it might be worthwhile to take a look at, and he was concerned about the misinformation that was provided in that editorial.
And Rebecca and I have talked about having a meeting with you and discussing that, about how we should.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I would have liked to have commented on that myself, but being in the position I'm in, I wasn't sure if it was do more damage than good, so I decided to keep my mouth shut.
I know that feeling.
Sometimes not feeding the fire seems to, because I know lots of that was personally directed to me.
I don't know how, as a private contractor, you think it's going to benefit you by calling your customer base welfare ranchers.
I didn't underhear that comment either.
That's all right. You're good.
That's what we call it.
I know.
It's like, man.
We're under public comment, I would remind everyone here.
I was the only one mentioned by name, so hey.
There is that. Do we have any other public comment in Reno Sparks? No more down here. Over here.
So everybody's happy, we can move on? So do we need a motion to adjourn the meeting, or do I just adjourn it?
That one was easy. We got motions and seconds all over the place. You're good.
Okay, well, with that, we'll call meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you guys
Thanks,
for coming.
Boyd. Thanks, Grant.